World events have been moving at such a pace in the last few weeks, it's been difficult to digest them at the rate they are happening and make sense of it all. But here's my slant on it so far. The bald-headed Ponce Foreign Secretary William Hague is the puppet who has been saddled with putting out government spin about the supposedly unforeseen world events which have been unfolding recently. I wouldn't trust him to change a plug, never mind deal with world events. Anyway, let's start with the Islamic uprising or awakening in North Africa and in the Middle East. Initially, following the Tunisian and Egyptian uprisings, I was suspicious about whether these revolutions had been triggered deliberately. The well-practiced methods which the CIA have used in the past to plant agent provocateurs in other countries to stir up the shit and make it look like public unrest when it is in fact all done to manipulate the situation to their intended outcome, i.e. replacing a leader with one of their puppets, as described by ex-CIA operative John Perkins. Perhaps this is how it all started. I don't know. None of us know. But since other countries seem to have followed suit, it seems very unlikely that the knock-on effect happening now has been orchestrated. Western powers were rubbing their hands with glee when they saw that Libya too had seemingly kicked off. A great chance to get rid of that evil man, Colonel Gaddafi. The powers that be seized on this, but before taking any military or direct action, they put out their propaganda to demonize Gaddafi in our tightly controlled media. The front page of The Sun suggested that Gaddafi was responsible for the Lockerbie bombing. Let's correct that mainstream media lie straight away. Neither Gaddafi nor Libya was responsible for Lockerbie. The Libyan man, Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, who spent 8.5 years in prison for assisting in the preparation of the bomb, was let out of prison in August 2009 on compassionate grounds because he supposedly had terminal cancer and supposedly only had 3 months to live. He's still alive, by the way. Something which is often conveniently ignored about al-Megrahi is that he was awaiting an appeal hearing to challenge his original conviction, which was widely expected to conclude that it was, to put it mildly, an unsafe conviction. Witnesses are alleged to have lied and been coerced at the original trial. This would have been a massive embarrassment for both Britain and America, so they most likely fabricated his cancer illness and let him out of prison to avoid the hearing. People who were in prison with and knew Megrahi all say he is innocent. Nevertheless, our mainstream media still used the Lockerbie bombing to demonize Gaddafi, before the government then started suggesting military action may be necessary to get rid of him. The very slimy Malcolm Rifkin said, "He thought we should be arming the rebels." You know, whenever I see young kids fighting in the street, I always think the best way to split up the fight is to arm the rebels. Give them knives and watch them tear each other to pieces. What a tit that man is, Rifkind. But Gaddafi has murdered his own people. He's an evil dictator. Well, it may come as a surprise to some of you, our authorities murdered 56 of their own people in the 2005 London bombings. The word hypocrisy springs to mind here, but more on that later. It was reported in our media that during both the Libyan and Egyptian uprisings, the internet was pulled by the evil regimes. Really? Not sure I believe that one. Show me the evidence that it was the regime that shut their internet down, and I might believe it. There are other parties, notably those who seek to control Western media, who might also not want the truth getting out of these countries via YouTube. I remain on the fence on that one. People say, but people want democracy in Libya. This is about spreading democracy. Really? Other countries in the region experiencing considerable unrest, with protesters calling for their non-democratic leaders to take a hike, are Yemen, Bahrain, and Saudi Arabia. In Wikipedia's Democracy League table of 167 countries, Bahrain is in position 122, listed as an authoritarian regime. Yemen is at position 146, listed as an authoritarian regime, and Saudi Arabia scores worse than Libya and Iran at position 160, listed as an authoritarian regime, seventh bottom of a table of 167 countries. Why isn't Malcolm Rifkind wanting to arm the rebels of Yemen, Bahrain and Saudi Arabia in their fight for democracy? The seventh bottom authoritarian regime, Saudi Arabia, even sent its own army to Bahrain to assist the Bahrain authoritarian regime in killing its own people to stop them protesting. So come on, Malcolm, why aren't you wanting to arm these countries' rebels to fight for democracy? The answer is simple, because these regimes are backed by the US and subservient to America's foreign policy goals, while at the same time oppressing their people in a variety of ways. Our spineless puppet leaders like Rifkind, Haig and David Cameron are the biggest brown noses of the American regime you can find, and quite happy for countries to remain at the bottom of the democracy league table as long as the dictators oppress their people and support the US's goal for world domination. Hypocrisy, hypocrisy, hypocrisy. Well, Malcolm Rifkind, you think we should be arming selected sides of selected countries when it was us that sold arms to the other side in the first place. There's a few arms I wouldn't mind using on you, you slimy, empty-headed waste of space coward. Rifkind, of course, doesn't actually have any power. He has been told to say these words by those other cowards who manipulate things from behind the veil.